Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 302, your weekly little get-together. We talk about recent gaming news. I was always the host, Tim Brown, and I'm solo tonight as David is currently away, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a whole bunch of things to go over for the night. We do have Spirits Unleashed, that new Ghostbusters game announced, Milphonic, Hogwarts Legacy had its big show-off last week during a State of Play, and a new Witcher game is coming, probably predictably from CD Projekt Red. We'll get into all of that and more before the show is over with. But first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching us live here at Twitch TV/GamePoints or later over at YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and any myriad of social media video players, please feel free to comment down below with any questions, comments, concerns you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the conversations on hand. You can also follow this show at the Discord link provided down below and all your social medias, mainly Twitter, and you know what to do if you like what you see here. Anyways, enough of the preamble. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So let's start off with the first big story that I want to talk about this week. This is via IGN, announced earlier today, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. A 4v1 asymmetrical multiplayer game has been announced. As I've already alluded to, this is going to be from Milphonic. Those are the developers behind the excellent Friday the 13th game and the less well-received Predator Hunting Ground. While I did not play Predator, I did play Friday the 13th, and I thought it was a fantastic little game for the few hours I put into it. I didn't put much time into it because it's very hard for me to do the 4v1 asymmetrical things. My schedule just doesn't line up too well with my friends, so I don't get to really build a good team. But I liked what I saw there. I liked what they were doing with it. It was unfortunate they lost the license to it. Kind of glad to see them take another crack at a licensed IP again, and hopefully they can correct what went wrong with Predator. Not to say that Predator was bad. It just wasn't there, you know? It was missing something. However, Ghostbusters, well, that seems ripe for a perfect 4v1 asymmetrical game. To the article here itself, your mission as a Ghostbuster is simple. Find the ghost, blast them with streams from the particle thrower, tether them in place, then shut them in the trap when the timing is right. The ghosts, on the other hand, will have to use their abilities to fly, teleport between rifts, possess objects, and hide in plain sight. Use the power of slime and summoning ghoulish minions to win the day. Furthermore, players will also be able to talk to Winston Zeddemore, once again voiced by Ernie Hudson, and his likeness, by the way, and to acquire missions to, or Dan Aykroyd's Ray's stance at Ray's occult books to learn some busting wisdom. One thing to note, Bill Murray is not listed in this game, and there's no way in hell he will ever be in this. From what I understand, it was like pulling teeth to even get him to show up in the most recent movie, period. And, of course, Harold Ramis has died, so there's no way they're going to actually bring him back unless they're getting really meta with the Ghostbusters theme here. This isn't really what I was really hoping for in a Ghostbusters game. I was kind of hoping that they would go back to that 2008, I think it was 2008 when that Ghostbusters game came out, the Afterlife. What was that Ghostbusters game? It brought all four of them back. It was on PlayStation 2. They recently remastered it. It was essentially a sequel to the original Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and I thought that was excellent. However, there is some potential good to this. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to play it myself because, like I said, to really get full enjoyment out of these, you need a solid group of 4 people, unless you just want to be the ghost all the time, and even then, not really sure if you can guarantee that. One thing of note, while the game does support solo play offline with or without AI, cross-platform multiplayer will ensure Ghostbusters and the Ghosts will be able to play together regardless of what platform you choose. This is now the industry standard. Anyone who's fighting cross-platform needs to get on the bus. They just need to give up that dream of still keeping the closed garden. Your games must be playable across all platforms at this point. That is just how it is. Thank God we were able to finally pressure them into doing this. The timing on this feels, while as the movies go, the newest movie finally came out, Ghostbusters Afterlife, I think was the name of the movie. It's still relatively close to that, but when it comes to a game standpoint, I feel this is already a very crowded genre. You see a whole bunch of these 4v1 games trying to make their way on Steam, especially with the ghost theme. There's like Midnight Ghost Hunt. There's the Phantasma, I think it's Phantasmaphobia. That's really big right now. And just 4v1 in general. The aforementioned Friday the 13th game, Dead by Daylight. You had Evolve, what little it does. And none of them ever really seem to be giant blockbusters. That's not to say Dead by Daylight isn't doing well. It is. But none of them have really hit that triple A, this is what everyone talks about, this is what people play kind of game. Even though Phonic's previous Predator Hunting Grounds didn't quite match that goal just yet. So there is still room at the top for someone. I don't know if this is going to be it, though. I hope it is. This does look great. We'll definitely see how it comes out. This has to have a steady stream of content to keep relevant, though. The reason why Dead by Daylight is still going on for years is because they keep getting those license deals. They keep adding in like the guy from Saw, or adding in Pyramid Head, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, that's his name. They keep the content fresh. I don't know how far you can stretch this Ghostbusters game's licensing for that. You definitely can't be bringing in ghosts from other franchises into it, because I don't think it'll fit the theme at all. You can't have something terrifying. I can't think of a scary ghost beyond, like, maybe, I mean, the only famous ghost I can think of is Casper. So that's not really a good example, but that's the point I'm getting at. Maybe you can have some dead celebrities. Maybe have the ghost of Jim Carrey haunting you and you have to bust him or something. I don't know. I'm really concerned about the future of this game, but on paper it sounds great, and I hope it does well, at least for a couple of years before they move on. Next up on the docket, this is, by the way, going to be a shorter than normal show, as these solo shows tend to be, so just keep that in mind. We usually go an hour. This is probably going to be closer to 30 minutes. Next up, Sony finally had their state of play to show off Hogwarts Legacy, and they showed off a bunch of gameplay on it. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way first. I'm aware of all the controversy around J.K. Rowling and her statements, etc. I'm not going to dig into that besides this opening sentence here. There are many other people, if you want to get their takes on what she may or may not have said and what her stance is or isn't. I'm just here to take a look at the game. So that aside, let's go ahead and move right into it. This has been in development for a few years at this point. It's coming from Avalanche Software, not to be confused with Avalanche Studios. They are two separate companies. I believe Avalanche Software did like the Disney Infinity stuff, whereas Avalanche Studios is more known for Just Cause and Mad Max. Two completely different styles of game. I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I found the movies entertaining. I never read any of the books. I haven't seen any of the new series of movies that are out. That the Fantastic Beasts stuff. I never really got into any of that stuff. But I was watching this game, the video for this. It looks solid from just a gameplay standpoint. I didn't see anything that makes me consider it a day one buy. But nothing really turned me off, and I like the idea of exploring an extremely detailed Hogwarts and surrounding environs around it. They really seem to have dug deep into the books and the movies and made sure they translated things very well. I'm not a fan, as I mentioned earlier, yet I was still able to recognize by sight certain areas the player was walking through in their player-created wizard. That's a testament to how true they're trying to keep to the image that people already have of Hogwarts in their head. So go Avalanche Software for that. That looks great. You are going to make your own wizard. You'll be sorted into one of 4 different houses. Either, what is it? Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. So it sounds very much like you get to pick your origin, or I don't want to say origin, but you get to create your own character and pick whatever house you're backing for sure. This is very much an open world RPG. They tend to stretch that quite a bit, and it's not just in Hogwarts School alone, but all the areas around there. So expect things like Hogsmeade, the Forbidden Forest, the Black Lake, etc. You're flying around on your broom. It's relatively open world-ish. So I like open world games, not for the combat. And the combat in this does seem kind of janky. I wasn't too impressed with what I saw from the ranged combat on this so far, but that could just be from me looking through someone else playing rather than playing myself. It's kind of hard to engage on that. But I love exploring a detailed open world, and this seems to have it. Hey there, Juicy in chat. Good to see you. Chat's saying they would love to see a Mad Max Harry Potter crossover. You know, I would personally like to see it doesn't have to be necessarily Mad Max, but I would like to see a wasteland world in the future where magic still kind of reigns supreme a little bit. That would definitely be interesting. And these kids would be used to danger. I mean, Hogwarts, I'm shocked that that school doesn't have like a 50% mortality rate. They're literally giving 12-year-olds the equivalent of magic of bombs and telling them to go fight each other with it. How are there not more casualties in the school? I guess magic lets you get healed, but who the hell knows? Yeah, Mad Potter would be great, Ruck. Absolutely. I would absolutely play Mad Potter or Harry Max. I think you can go real dark with this franchise if you wanted to. Like, way, way, way M-rated. And I would love to see that one day. But I don't know. We're never going to get that. That's like asking for nothing's good to come to mind. So we're just going to move on. There are a few things I am concerned about this. Like I said earlier, the combat does look a little janky. The potion crafting mechanic QTE, Jesus Christ, it seems overly tedious. I'm hoping that whenever you craft something, you don't have to go through that shit. I'm hoping that after you do it once or twice, they just let you go, I want to make 20 of X. Because I don't want to sit there and like hit the X button over and over again to craft, I don't know, protection from fire. Like I said, I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I don't know what they got. But it really reminds me of what they did in Red Dead Redemption 2 when you had to actually X every one of your single bullets if you wanted to give them that little extra bit of accuracy, which means I just never did it. I have no interest in doing that. Those quibbles aside, the game looks solid. I definitely want to take a look at it. And if it's a slower time when it releases, like if it's in the middle of summer and nothing else is out there catching my eye, I'll definitely play this. Hell, I might even stream it. I can't unabashedly recommend it because I'm just not a fan. Let's turn to chat here real quick. Sounds like an amazing book series. Not gonna lie. Yeah, it does sound like an amazing book series. Maybe someone should write those Harry Potters into books one day. Maybe someone should. Speaking of books into games, we got a little bit of a tease right here. Not really unsurprising from CD Projekt Red. They announced today yesterday rather, that a new Witcher game is coming with almost no details about it other than this one image that you see right there. And the following quote. This is the exciting moment as we're moving from Red Engine to Unreal 5, the beginning of a multi-year strategic partnership with Epic Games. It covers not only licensing, but technical development of Unreal 5 Engine, as well as potential future versions of Unreal Engine where relevant. We will closely collaborate with Epic Games developers with the primary goal of being able to help tailor the engine for the open world experience. At this point, no further details regarding the game, such as development, timeframe, or release date, are available. A couple things to take note out of the gate. One, they do talk about Epic a lot, but I believe the head of CD Projekt Red has openly said that they're not going to be Epic exclusive, so if you are worried about that, don't be. However, things can change over the course of the years. I don't expect to see this game until 2026, 4 years maybe longer. Something that you can kind of glean from this though. That right there is not a wolf medallion. That looks to be a cat. That would be a different school. In the Witcher universe, there are multiple schools. Geralt was from the wolf school. He had the wolf school. He had the medallion around him that, the one that shook, that was in the image of a wolf. And all the Witchers you saw in that game, barring one or two, were from the wolf school. This seems to be taking place in a completely different part of the world if they're going with the cat school. What remains to be seen, however, is the time it's going to be set in. To the people theorizing that this could possibly be Ciri, no, I highly doubt that. It's definitely not going to be Geralt if they're advertising a cat necklace there. In fact, CD Projekt Red has been very open saying Geralt's storyline is wrapped up. And honestly, I'm fine with that. I want to take a look at this world. Which brings us to what this could actually be set in. My gut tells me it's going to be set in the past. I know that's weird saying a fantasy game's in the past, but consider that there aren't really making any more Witchers, and they don't really have any more written material to draw from, I don't think. So I would imagine what CD Projekt Red is going to do with this game is let you create your own Witcher, man, woman, whatever it might be. Now, that runs into the problem of the fact that you can't make any more Witchers in the current timeline. They've lost that ability. So what you do instead is you set it 1,000 years prior, or however long back you need to. There's a lot of lore already there. You can set it back during the first Nilfgaardian invasion. You can set it back during the conjunction of the spheres. I'm not really sure exactly when Witchers are created in the timeline, but you got a lot of space that you can play with. So my gut is telling me that you're going to be able to create your own Witcher, and that it's going to be a prequel of like 1,000 years earlier. Additionally, I believe you do have another Netflix series that is running as a prequel to the Henry Cavill series, I think. I need to do my due diligence to take a closer look at that, but I believe that is a possibility. Also, another possibility, set it instead of like thousands of years back, about 100 years back. Maybe a young Vesemir. That is a Netflix movie right now, an animated one, so maybe they're going to try to tie it into whatever plot line is there. I know that CD Projekt said that they're more or less done with the Witcher saga. And then they kind of backtracked a little bit and moved that goalpost, saying that they're done with Geralt's Witcher saga. Given the disastrous launch of Cyberpunk and the still, in my opinion, busted game, despite their patches, and even if they patch it up completely, it wasn't what was promised. Despite all of that, or because of all of that, rather, it's clear they have to go back to something that's going to bring eyes. The Witcher is the other thing they do. So of course they would make another Witcher game. If CD Projekt Red would have hit off, or if Cyberpunk would have hit off well, I think they might have moved on to a new IP, but they really need to get that street cred back they had with The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3. Keep in mind when this game comes out, however, what they did with Cyberpunk. Never forget how jank that game was. And always remember to not pre-order this shit until it comes out. I was guilty of this myself on Cyberpunk. I was trusting of CD Projekt Red, and they have broken that trust, and now they need to re-earn it. So don't get hyped up on this. Don't get excited for this. Wait until you see it. Don't even let them show you a trailer and get hyped up for that. Don't let them tell you that Keanu Reeves is in it again. Keep a cynical mind when it comes to CD Projekt Red from here on out, and you're going to save yourself a lot of disappointment. Speaking of disappointing franchises, let's move on to this article from VGC. As one of the developers for my beloved Mass Effect series, a series that has gone off the rails and into a no man's land after Andromeda, one of the minds behind it seems to be starting their own thing. The headline from Video Game Chronicle: Mass Effect Trilogy director confirms he is working on a new sci-fi universe. Former BioWare general manager Casey Hudson has confirmed in his latest studio is developing a brand new sci-fi universe. Hudson first announced the formation of Humanoid Studios last June, and this week the company revealed fresh details on what's working on via a newly launched website. Our current project is a multi-platform AAA game focusing on character-driven narrative in an all-new science fiction universe, it says. The website also features several pieces of concept art. You can see some of it down there. During almost 20 years at BioWare across 2 stints, Hudson directed and produced the original Mass Effect trilogy, as well as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. He left the company for the second time in December of 2020. I'm excited for this, but it's one of those things that makes me very... It's Casey Hudson was kind of brought back to fix what was going on in BioWare, and he left. Now, you could speculate as to why he left, but I think it's clear he didn't leave because he was being burnt out, because the thing he immediately does after leaving BioWare is create a studio that's going to make another science fiction and RPG. So what was the state of the already announced Mass Effect 4, as we just conveniently forget Andromeda existed? What was the state of that game? What's the state of BioWare right now that Casey Hudson felt compelled to leave that studio to create another science fiction RPG rather than building on the world that he has? Now, he might have just wanted to do another IP. I would figure that if you were tired of Mass Effect, you would probably target for something else other than yet another science fiction RPG. But hey, who really knows except Hudson himself? I have such a jaded standpoint on BioWare at this point, however, is that I think that this is just another red flag of what's going on for Dragon Age and Mass Effect. That Casey Hudson, the man who essentially led the push on the Mass Effect trilogy, went, I ain't working on this anymore. I'm going to do my own thing over here. However, let's get rid of the negative part. This sounds awesome, despite how little of it is. Once again, keeping hype in expectations. Just make sure that keep those checked so they don't run wild. But I could really use another quality sci-fi RPG, because as it is right now, we really don't have many of those. Things like Elix 2 just launched, but they really don't rise to that level. Hell, I would even take something from Spiders, which is a game that I love, but they're not AAA yet, as long as it was this science fiction realm. We don't have anything on the horizon. At least not yet. We do now have, I take that back. We don't have anything right now. We do have things on the horizon. We have the Coda remake, we have Mass Effect 4, we have this, we have a couple other things. But when it comes to right now, we are in a drought. So I'm looking to have a floodgate of science fiction RPGs come flowing in, hopefully of high quality. We'll see in the next couple of years. Once again, this is a studio that is just starting off, so I expect no details on what this game is for at least another couple of years. So you get a long wait ahead of you. We got two more stores I'm going to go over here real quick. First up is this one right here. PlayStation Studios is buying Jade Raymond's Haven Studios. This is from Herman Holst, who is currently the grand poobah of PlayStation Studios. Haven Studios is officially joining PlayStation Studios. Jade Raymond brings a wealth of experience from her industry achievements and an infectious passion for creating games. And the leadership team at Haven is an equally impressive group of industry veterans who have collaborated on some of the biggest and most beloved games and franchises that many of us still enjoy today. We began working with Jade and her team in early 2021 when they were on the brink of announcing the formation of Haven Studios. From their first pitch, we were inspired by Haven's vision of creating a modern multiplayer experience that brings gamers together in a positive and meaningful way. Already tipping their head as to what this is going to be from Haven. Their first game is going to be some kind of multiplayer game, maybe even live service, considering that PlayStation, I want to say, said they had 10 live service games on deck. This is very clearly one of them, if that's the case. Back to the blog post. We were confident in their creative and technical expertise to deliver on such an ambitious project, and we're thrilled to invest in their journey developing a new original IP for PlayStation. We've had the privilege of working closely with Haven this past year and have been impressed by the studio's growth and progress. By the way, that's one of the reasons why Haven was announced so early. We have no idea what they're working on. Why would you announce the name of the studio? Well, it's a recruitment drive. Come work at Haven and do whatever X is going to be. So that wasn't meant for us. It was meant for developers to start putting in resumes. From Jade Raymond, who goes on later in the article here, what I'm looking for is right about there. This is from Jade Raymond. Our first new IP for PlayStation is on track to deliver a AAA multiplayer experience with a vision to build a systemic and evolving world focused on freedom, thrill, and playfulness that will keep players entertained and engaged for years. Once again, it's a live service game. It's a live service game that I get the feeling they're going to try to make in the vein of Destiny. That doesn't mean it's science fiction, or it doesn't mean it's a first-person shooter. What I mean by that is that they're going to create a game that has like a 5 to 10 year life, and they're going to do season passes or battle passes or whatever flavor of the month is when it comes to making you pay an extra couple of bucks every few months to keep playing it. I just don't care. I'm glad a new studio's opened up. I'm glad that studios get credit. I'm glad that we're seeing new IP. New IP is great. I don't want to revisit the same things over and over and over again. But I think the only reason why the studio has any cachet at all is because the industry has this love affair with Jade Raymond, who hasn't really put out a game, I want to say, since Far Cry 5. Now, I could say the same thing about other people. Like Ken Levine, for example, hasn't done anything since BioShock Infinite. Amy Hennig hasn't done anything since, Uncharted 3? I think she was working on Star Wars, and Uncharted 4 and all that eventually got canceled. But Jade Raymond, for some reason, just gets a lot of love in this industry, and I don't get it. Yes, I understand she helped on Assassin's Creed. I understand that she helped on some Far Cry games. But much like those other two people that I mentioned, she just hasn't done anything in a while. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Stuffy Twitchy, you say the same as Cliffy B. However, Cliff Baczynski has like retired. He has openly said he's retired. He did 2 games that kind of flopped after his leaving from Epic. He did, oh man, what were they? One of them was like Paradise Heights or something like that, was the Battle Royale, and the other one was something else. The fact that I can't even remember their names shows how well they did. But at least Cliffy B kind of just retired. Lawbreakers, yes, thank you. He said he retired, though. He's out. Jade Raymond's actively in the industry. Amy Hennig is actively in the industry. Ken Levine are actively in the industry. And just System Shock 2 is one of my favorite games. I love Ken Levine, but the guy hasn't shown shit in years. But Ken Levine isn't talked about over and over again. Amy Hennig talked a little bit more, but nowhere near as much as Jade Raymond. I just don't get it. And I think the only reason why Haven even has as much attention as it does is because she's attached to it. More power to her, I guess. But honestly, I would wait until we see something from this team tangible before we start singing the praises too hard. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I have one more story here, and this is 100% tailored toward me. I fully admit that. I get that most of you probably haven't even heard of this game, but goddammit, I am super excited. Stellaris announced a new expansion pack. Surprise, surprise, Paradox loves their DLC, right? Once every 6 months or so, I get roped into another goddamn Paradox DLC, but I love every one of them. Stellaris Overlord. Stellaris is a 4X game where you're the leader of a massive intergalactic empire. It starts off with you controlling a single planet, then eventually dominate the entire galaxy, or destroy it, or fall victim to any number of perils that might be resting in the cold blackness of space. In the Overlord expansion, they're going to be focusing upon improving the vassalization mechanics. As it stands right now, vassalization is very you essentially overpower an empire and say, you're now my bitch, and you're going to do what I tell you for a while, and that's the extent of it. Or conversely, you get taken over, you become a vassal. You can play a little bit, but usually in about 20 to 50 years, they just integrate you into the empire, and it's game over. They're really going to be focusing on maintaining a series of smaller empires. I'm looking forward to that because I always like playing a hegemon to begin with. Crusader Kings in Space. I don't know if it's going to go that hardcore. I think it's just going to be a little bit of a retooling to how vassalization works to make it to where if you get vassalized, it's not just considered instant game over. Maybe you can start inciting rebellion, or maybe you can have some extra goals alongside your Overlord. And from the other way, rather than just vassalizing people and waiting the appropriate amount of time before you integrate them, maybe there's some benefits to actually keeping them as independent empires. We'll definitely see as more details on this comes out. But another thing that I'm looking forward to is this right here. New megastructures. Now in Stellaris, a megastructure is a massive science fiction concept. So what I mean by that is the ring world from Halo would be a megastructure. A Dyson's field would be a megastructure. A gateway that jumps you from one point from the universe to another is a megastructure. These are planet-sized bases. The Death Star would be a perfect example of a megastructure in Stellaris. In fact, you more or less can build the Death Star. Just not, I think it's actually a cube. You don't want to get sued by the mouse. Really looking forward to this game. They're adding new megastructures, which I've been hoping for because they're my favorite part. They're my second favorite part of the game. My favorite part of the game are the crises. We'll get into details about that maybe if they reveal some more details. But I'm hearing grumbling that this new expansion might actually add another crisis or two, which are essentially end-game enemies the game throws at you. So that way, if you're steamrolling everyone, you have some kind of challenge by the end. I'm really looking forward to that too. That kind of does it for the news as well. I have a couple of quick bits I want to go through here real fast. One, we have a delay. EA Sports PGA Tour has been delayed till next year. Originally, it was supposed to come out in early 2022. It is now slated for early 2023. This just is kind of reinforcing my idea that EA is going to be writing off 3/4 of 2022 as just bad. They're not having their EA Play. I can't think of anything major coming out at least until August when the next Madden drops. I get a distinct feeling they're just going to try to push everything out because they know this is going to be a bad quarter or two from them, but that's just me spitballing. It could just be the game's not ready yet. We have some new releases to go through as well. Coming to Xbox Game Pass, you have the Zero Escape, the Nonary games. These are 999, Virtue's Last Reward, and the third one, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. They are excellent visual novels. So if you don't like visual novels, if you don't like things like Ace Attorney or anything like that, stay away from this. I don't like visual novels much myself, but I love these Zero Escape games. I think they're fantastic. They're very dark. They're very twisted. A lot of betrayal, a lot of murder. It's kind of like an anime equivalent of Saw, almost. Now, it is full of anime tropes when I say that, but it has that same vibe to it. So if you like that, if you like those, take a look at it. And it is on Games Pass, so if you have that, feel free to essentially play it for free or for your price of admission. A Memoir Blue comes out on PS5, PS4, the Xboxes, Switch, and PC. A song from years ago triggers a flood of memories for a champion swimmer, Miriam, embarking on an evocative journey through her turbulent childhood and the complicated relationship she shared with her devoted mother. I saw this a couple months back. I can't remember where I saw it at, but it's kind of a not a visual novel. It's one of those adventure games where you're playing through. It's more of a visual feast rather than a gameplay-focused story, as you're just exploring the memories that you had with your mother to kind of deal with whatever trauma happened. It looks interesting. I think I'll pass on this one, but if you like your games more as a story rather than a puzzle, I might want to take a look at it. Expedition Zero comes to the PC, a survival horror set in the anomaly zone of a northern forest. Face dreadful forest monsters and find a way to defeat it. Reveal the secrets of a lost expedition and your mysterious enemy. It's either hunt or be hunted. This is being published by Tiny Build. It has it's definitely a horror game. It has some slight stalker-ish feels to it, especially with this anomaly zone idea. I will be playing this tomorrow, by the way. Tiny Build did send me a code for this, so thank you very much to them. If you want to take a look at Expedition Zero, come by here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. Also coming out this week are the three big ones. First up, Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Switch. Float off on an all-new adventure as the powerful Puffball Kirby. Explore 3D stages as you discover a mysterious world, save kidnapped Waddle Dees, and defeat the ferocious Beast Pack. This is that game that seems to be set in a post-apocalyptic Kirby universe. I know that sounds weird to say together, but if you take a look at the trailer, you'll understand. This is also where that meme of the Kirby-shaped car has been going around, because there's some true body horror to this trailer, where he just envelops things halfway and it's kind of sticking out of his mouth, and he takes on the characteristics of that. I like Kirby games. I'll probably be picking this up and playing it. I don't know if I'll stream it, but I do enjoy the Nintendo first party stuff. It's rare for them to be misses. Also out this week, Tiny Tina's Borderlands on the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series S and X, Xbox One, and PC. This is the fantasy-based version of of Borderlands. Roughly, they took Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, I think was that expansion, the D&D based one, and turned it into a full-on game. I don't know. I think I'm over Borderlands. I don't know if Wonderlands is going to do it for me. I do find Tiny Tina's character to be grating at this point. She was adorable in small doses, especially in the earlier Borderlands games. But as the series has progressed, they kept giving her a more and more prominent role. And now I just want to strangle her annoying persona. That said, I have heard some good things about this on the background. If you need more Borderlands, I guess Borderlands 3 I thought was a disappointment. I'm just done with this franchise, so I really haven't paid too much attention to this game. But hey, if you're into it, knock yourself out. Don't let my dismissiveness of the franchise ruin your experience with it by any stretch of the imagination. And then finally, coming out on PlayStation 5 and PC, Ghostwire Tokyo. Tokyo's population has vanished and the deadly supernatural forces prowl the streets. Use an arsenal of elemental abilities to unravel the truth behind the disappearance and save Tokyo. This is one of the two games that was part of the PlayStation 5 exclusivity deal they had with Bethesda before Microsoft bought Bethesda. So this is in the unfortunate state of being now a Microsoft game that is console exclusive to PlayStation 5. And as such, it really does feel like it's being sent off to die. We talked about this a little bit more in detail in last week's show, so I won't get into in depth about my personal take on what I'm seeing here so far. But I would not be surprised if this just kind of comes and goes and people forget it even existed in a couple of weeks. I don't think Sony's too happy about having essentially a game that's going to be giving money to Microsoft. Microsoft's not really going to get anything from this because it's on a Sony console. It's just primed to fail, and that is a damn shame. I hope it's good, though, because I like the people behind it. I liked Evil Within 1 and 2. I just don't know about this one, but we'll definitely see. And with the end of new releases, that is the end of the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 302, and thank you all for showing up. Juicy, Rock, Bogard, Stealthy Twitch, and everyone else in chat. Your viewership is always appreciated. And to anyone else who is watching this later, also, thank you very much. If you like what you saw here, you know what to do. If you want to support the stream, likes, bits, follows, subs, all that good stuff. There's a Discord you can join. The link is provided down there somewhere, as are all the articles to the stories that I use as reference today. You can follow the show on Twitter at GamePoints PC, myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21. And remember, I will be streaming Expedition Zero tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. Until I see you again next week, however, stay safe, take care, and you have a good one.